Hey there, people. It's me again from Weakness to Peakness. It's Adrian. We're at day 50, halfway through the 100-day fitness challenge by MacroFactor. And yeah, let's just say it's been a challenge. I've had my ups, I've had my downs. I've tried to stay as positive as I possibly can through this adventure. And thank goodness it's paying off. It's paying off at a very rapid pace. As promised, I'm going to show you guys some pictures today. And I myself, to the naked eye, look at them and go, wow, there's not much difference. Other than the side view, you really can't tell how drastic my body has actually changed. From the front and from the rear, it looks almost exactly the same. But from the side, you can definitely see that I've lost a major amount of depth from where my belly used to do this. Now it's a little bit flatter, almost the same par as my chest. But yeah, I've like I said, I've had my ups and downs. I've gone through an actual like body shock deficit where just too few calories or not enough carbohydrates, then my body literally started to shut down on me. I had to refeed. I had to introduce carbs again and just take in a whole bunch of foods that would help my glycogen stores replenish because I just didn't have enough explosive power to push the weights back up. While you're on the carnivore diet, your explosiveness kind of mellows out. So if you can push something, you can push it, but it's at a very steady speed. You're not explosive. You're not able to, on like a clean or a jerk, when you go to throw the weight up, you're not getting that power that you really need to. You're getting a steady speed rather than a quick. And that was a change for me. I've also found that my body is doing everything it can in its power to say, nah, I'm going to reduce the calories that you're going to use every day. And I am putting in even more and more and more exercise to try and keep my energy expenditure at the right level. And it's been a struggle. But from the health standpoint, from everything that I started this with, from the moment I opened myself up to the world and put myself on display and said, hey, I'm going to do this. I've done everything I possibly can to make sure I stayed with this. And everything that I have sought to improve so far is going in a positive direction. My heart health drastically improved. When I first started this MacroFactor challenge, I was having a steady heart rate of around 112 to 94, just sitting, not doing anything. Now my resting heart rate's right around 72 to 64, which is good. When I'm walking, my average heart rate is now around 90, 92, rather than 112, just trying to sit here, and extremely going up to 130. My respiratory, my breathing is a lot better. My strength is luckily hasn't started to decline yet. I mean, I'm actually continually progressing and putting on more weight in my presses, my pushes, my pulls. The only challenge I've really had was when I said I started to just lose all power, when my body just started to shut down. Those days I really had to drastically reduce the weight, but I figured out what was going on pretty quickly. Things are going great. The bad news is I was really hoping to be at this halfway point and come in here and record a video and say, hey, I have moved from morbidly obese to obese. And I know that sounds probably minuscule and very little, but that was an important goal for me in a way that I didn't really speak out loud. I probably should have. Maybe I could have, spoke it into existence. But that is also kind of pushing it slash, more than expected. And I'll show a little later that I guess in one way I am obese, in another way I'm still morbidly obese. I'm going to go into like a body fat and BMI chart to kind of explain where I'm at, where I started, and where I'm trying to get. And I'm hopeful that in the next 50 days, I will be able to obtain overweight status. I don't care if I just make it by point one. I'm hoping I can make overweight status. Just that's my goal. You got to understand, I started out at 45% body fat. My BMI was, I want to say it was like 42 or something like that. When I get to the chart, I'll be able to reference that. But it's been a struggle, and I will say it's well worth it. As I preach to others and kind of say, hey, you know what? I know there's going to be those peaks and valleys, and sometimes it's even going to be a mountain again. The crazy thing is that this journey, although I've seen the success as the weight drops and just falls off, I've seen the improvements all over. I'm not going to sell you short, and I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not going to say, oh man, it just becomes smooth sailing. I'm halfway there, and I can see the finish line. And I know that, hey, if I can make it through this half, I can make it through the next half. But this journey for me, and probably anyone else, whether you are trying to lose weight, whether you are trying to recomposition your body, whether you are trying to put on muscle, it's sadly like the story of Sisyphus. Although you may see that, hey, your goal is downhill, for some reason, even though you may be facing downhill, somehow to reach your objective, it becomes a struggle. And when I say struggle, I mean you are pushing that boulder, that weight, all the obstacles that are in front of you uphill. It's kind of like when your parents said, I walked to school and back home in the snow, uphill both ways. If that struggle could be real in your head, and the ability that you have to physically, mentally, and willfully push yourself to reach that goal and attain it, that's what it is. Even when you see those easy parts and you're like, yeah, I can run, I can sprint through this, guess what? There's going to be quicksand. There's going to be mud. There's going to be things that are going to try and weigh you down and attach to you and do anything it can to prevent you from reaching your goal. Heck, my own body is fighting against me when it's basically saying, nah, I'm not going to burn as many calories because you're in too much of a deficit, or you're working too hard, so I need to conserve that energy. Or, I know you're eating all this protein, but you work too hard today, so you're not actually going to get the benefits of that protein going to build muscle. Instead, I'm going to use that just to compensate for the calories that I needed. Be aware that these are going to be obstacles that are going to happen, and don't allow it to take away your will to fight. Be willing to also accept that, hey, there's going to be those days where you stumble and fall. I will admit, today I did not eat my diet right. I chose willfully to say, hey, I'm going to take another break day. And I did this specifically because 2 or 3 weeks ago, I actually had that body shut down where my body was like, no, I'm done. And I said, okay, you know what? Once every week, once every 2 weeks, or once every month, I'm going to just say, hey, I'm on a day where I know I can take in one meal of a little bit of carbs, a little bit more, just, hey, something to make my mind go, that's a reward. And for my body to go, maybe I don't need all this. Or if there was something that was missing, for some reason I had that craving, then my body could say, hey, okay, I'm taking that in, but it's this meal. We're good. guess what? That ain't happening again for another week, another 2 weeks, another month. I happen to have Arby's. Yeah, the bread. I shouldn't have ate the bread, but I did. I shouldn't have had a potato cake, but I did. But you know what? I'm rewarding myself for the progress I've accomplished. And as long as I don't make it a habit, I don't allow myself to be like, oh well, I'll fix everything the next day and the next day, and I don't allow that to keep going. These things are going to be good. So, let's talk about where I'm actually at, and it's a shock. I have actually gone from 250.1 pounds down to 223.5 pounds. That's a total of 26.6 pounds down in 50 days. Now, that seems ridiculous. I mean, when you say that's 7 weeks, I should be well over what I should be losing. But again, remember, I'm still morbidly obese, but I was morbidly obese. And I've been able to drop that amount of fat while at the same time, and weight at the same time. I also was able to increase my muscle mass. My muscle mass when I started this journey was barely at 35.2 pounds of skeletal muscle. And now I'm at 39.7% skeletal muscle. So of that body, I am now an increased amount. Now, regardless, this percentage may seem much larger. Some of that is due to the fact that I've dropped so much fat as well, though. So, you know, when your muscle maintains, it's going to become greater. But I've also built on a large percent of muscle mass underneath, which is helping me to achieve my goal. Sadly, it's not showing as much visually as I can feel it. I feel healthier. I know I'm stronger. I'm progressing in the weights I am lifting. And that's another reason why I really want to be at that overweight stats. If I can just hit that cusp of overweight, mentally for me, it's going to be a great thing. The additional point, I think visually on that day 100, it will be obvious how much work I've put in and how much my body has changed. So I just want to say it's possible for anybody to do. It is a struggle, but stick with it, and I believe in you just like I believe in myself and anybody else. If you put your mind to it, you can do this. But yeah, amazingly, my body's also starting to hold more water. My visceral fat, or the fat that's all inside my organs, is starting to go away, and it may not show again visually in the photos, but I can feel it. I'm actually starting to be able to feel my muscles underneath the subcutaneous fat, or directly under my skin layer, with a little bit of that top fat on top of it. I'm able to actually feel my stomach actually going in properly now. You know, as I discussed when I first started this, I kind of mentioned that, you know, I had all these health conditions. I mean, I had skin conditions. I have, you know, IBS. Pretty much, surprisingly, I've only had, I think, 2 days the entire time, shortly after the first week of starting the carnivore diet and actually starting on this whole journey, that I've had any IBS pain. It's almost completely gone. I will say, you know, I've had those days where I did do a refeed, and during 2 of those days, I ate something and it irritated my stomach, and my stomach let me know really quickly. But it's gotten so much better that my quality of life is a lot better. I'm not constantly worried that I'm going to have to rush to a restroom. I can actually go and do things. And just, I can't describe how much just better I feel. My skin doing so much better. I'm not constantly in breakouts. I'm not. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but if you look at my first picture, you can see how red I am. You may get a little bit of glare from the screen, but the redness in my face is gone. A lot of the rosacea is the signs are not showing, and it's still cold weather here, so those signs should be showing up because it's normally really worse for anybody in the cold weather who has these symptoms. My headaches, I'm no longer getting headaches every day. My posture is better. My ability to stand up is better. And I just see life in a more positive way. So let me talk really quickly about the body fat BMI chart that I have here. So this is only for a male. I do apologize, I don't have one here for females if you happen to be female watching this. However, you can look up these charts. This is one I've put together. Many doctor's offices have them. You can look for visual aids, other stock charts and stuff like that may have something for what your BMI is versus body fat percentages to kind of break down what the differences are. So I put this together just to kind of give an example of where I'm at. And this is based on a BMI chart / body fat chart. So the difference is the BMI chart specifically breaks down your body mass index. And this was some chart created a long time ago. And based on that overall body mass, that's what the BMI is. And then, knowing what it is can be broken down based on a percentage. Morbidly obese is a BMI of 40 and above. That's where I started. And body fat percentage that would go along with that BMI that falls into morbidly obese. Again, this is a different than BFP, or body fat percentage. That's a percentage of 35% or higher. So you can have a body mass that's technically not in the BMI factor, meaning that you're no longer morbidly obese. You could be obese, but your body fat percentage, your overall body fat percentage, could be so great that you're still above or still within that morbidly obese category because your body fat percentage is there. And that's the scenario I'm in right now. As I kind of discussed, when I started this journey, my body fat percentage was 45.3% of my body. And my BMI was 41.7. So now at the point I'm at now, my BMI is at 37.2. Yet my body fat percentage is at 38.5%. So technically, if I were to go by the BMI chart, I'm obese. I've actually gone from being morbidly obese to obese. But if I go by a body fat percentage and a percentage of my entire body that's still made up of fat, I am still significantly higher than where I should be. And based on just a body fat percentage, I'm still technically morbidly obese. So this is kind of where the visual aids kind of come into play. And this is kind of why I also added to these charts to kind of show you. Because when you see my body compared to those visual aids, you can maybe kind of gauge and say, well, wait a second, I can see why. As you see on the leftmost chart here, morbidly obese is somewhere in this scale. Yes, it may not be exactly, but when you see the size, shape of the body, it's very similar. There may be things that are going to be different. Everybody stores fat slightly differently. Some people store more on their guts, some people more on their sides, some people more on their, it's not really just their traps, but the connection of your pectorals to your traps. Some people store it on their back, some people store it on their hips, some people store it in their glutes, some people store it on the back of their legs, some inside of the legs, some outside of their legs, some in their calves, some in their ankles. It all depends on your genetics and how your body's built up. But in a generality, this is kind of, if you were to visually look at someone, you could say, okay, Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not someone who's saying, oh, fat is bad. I'm just saying this is the visual of what the BMI standard is / body fat percentage is. This is not some reason to be mean or anything to anybody. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware. This is all this is. This is the visual guide for you to be able to kind of gauge yourself. But on this leftmost picture, this was me when we started. This is pretty dang close. And if you were to look at my picture from January 11th, you can pretty much see I fall really, really close within that picture of morbidly obese. Now, then you can see to the right of the morbidly obese, you can see what obese body looks like. Still very full, very round. However, a lot of the rounding and smoothing of the skin starts to go away because you're starting to bring it down. You still have a little more chunks on the sides. I'm just a little bit heavier everywhere still. And if you look at my photos, I actually feel like this is pretty accurate because although my BMI is between the 39 to 30 range, my body fat is still higher. So when you look at me, there's certain features that you're like, oh yeah, that falls directly into that obese picture. But then you look at certain areas, you're like, yeah, you're still morbidly obese. And most of it's my gut. It's very obvious that most of where I'm carrying my weight is in my stomach. Call it a blessing or call it a curse. That seems to be where I'm carrying my weight. In one way, it sucks because from a front view, you don't see much difference. But from a side view, it's very obvious how much volume I've lost. So when you talk about obese based on medical definition, you're talking a BMI of 39.9 to 30. You're also talking about a body fat percentage of anywhere from 34% to 25%. So, as I kind of alluded to earlier, my goal is hopefully by the end of this that I can then move over to the next case here where you have the overweight body type just to the right of obese. And that's a BMI of 29.9 to 25. Now, I'm hoping to reach that overweight BMI. I'm not certain I'm going to be able to reach a body fat percentage of 24%. I just don't see that happening. But I'm hoping from a visual perspective, you all will see me closer to that overweight model than to the obese model. I'm sure I'm going to have some loose skin. I mean, this is a drastic weight loss. I've lost 26.6 pounds in this short amount of period. That's almost half a pound, actually a little over half a pound every day over the 50 days. From a mass, when we're talking about BMI, from a mass perspective, I've lost 16.6 inches in circumference of my body. Yes, it may not all be from my belly, but I've lost that much mass from my arms, my wrists, my forearms, my quads, my shoulders, my chest, my entire body. I've lost 16.6 inches. When you think of that, that's a foot and 4.6 inches worth of just fat body. Think of that. That's a foot plus of just body right there. And there's a large amount of me that's just gone, which is good. I'm no longer having all the weight on my shoulders, all the weight on my head, on my chest. I'm not having all the struggles that I had from that. So I want to achieve that overweight because at least then you'll start to see all the definition, all the stuff I've started to build, what I've been creating underneath this. And I may not be prepared to be an athlete, but I will at least have the building blocks and the foundation and the visual markers to say, wow, this is what you've done. And you can see that, hey, I've done this in a total of 3 months and 10 days. And then we can say, okay, well, what's next for the next 3 months? What's next for the year? And we put together some actual goals and plans. And for those who want to come along or want to join, I'll give you everything that I did, everything that I did or changed or modified. I'll give you every workout, every idea that I came up with and why I did that. Any explanation, feel free to ask, and I will give it to you. Because if it worked for me, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you, but it does mean that, hey, if you're willing and you want it bad enough, I'll give you anything. There's no monetary value that's great enough for me to keep any information that I've been given, any information that I came up with, or any information that could better you in the future. I would want nothing more than for you to be a better person, just as I'm trying to better myself. There's nothing I want more in this world. But then we move from the overweight. This is where I'm going to be pushing for the next year, is to get closer to that athletic weight. But the next body weight we have is really, it's healthy weight, athletic weight, and lean and fit. And they all fall into the same BMI category. We're talking 24.9% BMI to an 18.5% BMI. The only real difference is healthy weight, you're talking, body fat percentage of 17-18% to 14%. That means, you're healthy, but you got a little bit more subcutaneous fat. You're not really lean. You're not massively muscular. Or even if you are, you have a lot of layering from the fat. You're not really so focused on removing those fat stores. Athletic weight still falls in that same 24.9 to 18.5 BMI, but your body fat percentage drops drastically. You're talking like 13% to 10% body fat. You know exactly who those people are. The top performing football players, the wrestling team that's all fitted out. Those track guys. And then you start really getting into, lean and fit. And these are like your cross country runners, the super CrossFit guys that aren't eating enough, that they have tons of muscle. Mountain climbers, really low body fat percentages, talk 9 to 6%. Bodybuilders that are going right on the stage, that really low, very minimum water, very shredded, very lean. You can see all their muscles, you can see the striations without them even trying. That's what you're talking about. And that's kind of the body fat BMI chart. I just kind of want to give you a visual aid to kind of see where I'm at and see where we're going. With these visual aids, you can kind of see here now as we go on to my actual pictures. So this is my January 11th photo. This is where it all started. Signed up for this MacroFactor Fitness Challenge and put myself on display. These are my photos. This is what I started as. You can see how bulbous my stomach is. You can see how much flab and how rounded many of my features are, because it's just fat and there's no real underneath lying factors there. And then you can kind of see in my side view, you can see very much how rotund my belly is, and I'm very voluminous everywhere. And on my back photo, it's actually not horrible, other than the fact that I've got really bad fat around my obliques, and I've got, well, I don't know what to call it, maybe a second butt, like above where my butt is or my glute. I have another layer of fat that's just kind of there at the top, wrapping around, and then you can also see that my shoulders are kind of hunched, and I didn't really notice this until the most recent photos. You can kind of see my shoulder looks kind of hunched. I must have also been storing fat in my upper back that I just wasn't aware of. Maybe that's part of where my headaches were coming from. But then as we move to my March 1st photos, you notice I'm still very heavy in the belly area. However, now you can see much more definition in my chest. You can see a definite clear separation. I guess I call it under chest, or what used to just roll over is now a little more defined and flat, cut into. You can also see there's about an inch or two where it goes from underneath my chest to my belly again, which used to start at the top and round off. That's now kind of flattened out. You'll also see what at least looks like, maybe from the shadow, a cupping where the subcutaneous fat on my right side has started to go away, and possibly the visceral fat underneath, allowing the organs to compress back into my actual, the organ cavity, not being pushed out, giving a little kind of like a scraping out on my stomach. You can also see on the left side, down in the lower belly, that the belly itself has started to pull up, and at the same time, there's a section where it just kind of whiffs just a little bit because the fat has apparently decided that's where it wanted to come from. You can't choose where the fat comes from your body. You can also see, just looking at the legs, that where I used to have more of a bit of like hanging skin that just kind of hung on my leg, on my upper thigh, going into the knee, is now gone on the right knee, because now my quads have started to fill up, and I don't know what the teardrop muscle is, but on the inner part of your knee, that muscle is starting to become more voluminous, causing the skin to push out, which is then stretching that skin. So although I'm losing weight, it's keeping that skin elastic and giving it something to get rid of that hanging skin. So it's sitting on there better. You can also see how my legs have become a little bit more defined and a lot skinnier. A lot skinnier. Then when you move to March 1st side photo, you can see the drastic difference. How before, my arm was out here before, now it's in here. There is such a drastic drop in the amount of belly that it shocks even me. I'm pleased, and then at the same time also like, wow. And then you get to my back photo, and you can clearly see I'm starting to get definition in my upper back. It's clearly flattening out. You can actually see a little bit of the muscle there. Other than that, you can't really notice a massive difference, other than the fact that if you look at my V taper from the two back photos, you can clearly see that once I lose the love handles and the fat in the lower back, I'm going to have a very clear V taper. My back is definitely filled in very good. I just need to get that fat off, and you'll be able to start really seeing the amount of muscle that I have there, which does make me very happy, because I can definitely see the drastic difference I didn't quite notice before. It makes me very happy. The obvious way to be able to tell how much fat I had there is if you look at the top tattoo I have right dead center in the tribal fire, right below my neck. In the upper first photo I took, I had so much fat that it was actually rolling over and kind of hiding my neck in the photo. Whereas in the most recent photo, you can actually clearly see my neck, and it's much flatter. It almost looks like the skin pulled down, in a way, if you were to compare them. you can see that my traps run like this, and the top of the tribal fire is like right at my trap level, whereas in the first picture I took, it was like up at my neck level. It was at the top of my traps rather than the bottom of my traps. Which, these small improvements, they're incremental, but you don't really notice them without these photos, and it's really amazing. So the overall goal is to get myself healthy and to complete this challenge, and to not allow myself to let this challenge be the end of it and be like, yeah, I finished this challenge and okay, well, let's go back to eating. No, this challenge is just the footstone in my future, and I'm halfway through this challenge. Now, I haven't fully decided what my next challenge is going to be. I'm going to probably put a lot of stuff out there and probably put a poll out there probably 10 to 15 days prior to my final weigh-in, the end of the MacroFactor Fitness Challenge. And depending on how things go, if I even place at all in this MacroFactor app challenge, I may do something different. If I happen to be in those top 100 people or whatever, I might put something out there and be like, hey, you know what I get from this thing doesn't matter to me. It might be something for me to, hey, who out there else wants to do this? And maybe I pay for your MacroFactor app, or maybe I put together some kind of plan and pay for your protein or something. This isn't just about me. This is about us all being successful in this. And, not all of us have, a weight machine in their house. Not all of us have the ability to do this. And some of us need help. And, if it wasn't for that spark, I don't know if I would have got my ass off the couch. I had been thinking about it for years. And Jeff Dipper just coming up with this thing just basically was like I've said multiple times, I was sitting there with a cup of coffee and it was full. And it was full and it was full and it was just right there with the water just right on the top. You could see the freaking coffee right there ready to overflow, but it didn't overflow. And he just gave out there and said, hey, here's a challenge. 100-day challenge, and that drop hit it, fell over and burned my hands, and he said, hey, let me do something about this. Someone else out there might need that. Someone else might need the visualization. Someone else might be struggling to do the exact same thing. There might be someone out there who's got the exact opposite problem. Someone who's, skinny and is like, I just want to put on weight. I'm going to flip the script here and say, the things I say I'm embarrassed by. I don't want people to see me heavy like this. I don't want people. This all stems from me being a kid. Like in 3rd grade. Before that, I was always picked on for being husky. Yeah, it's okay. My mom tried to make it great. But being called chunky, being called heavy, being called fat, being called all these things, it sucks. It's the truth. I can't sit there and go back and be like, you liar. Yeah, I was fat. I was chunky. I was husky. Those things suck. But at the same time, I know how cruel we as humans are. And it's the same exact thing for the kid who's healthy but yet they're too skinny. Or the kid who, wants nothing more than just to be healthy weight. Just wants to be average and lean, and instead they're being picked on because they're too skinny. You don't know what they can be going through. And I want to be able to give back just like people have given to me. Now, it doesn't mean I want to pick on people because people picked on me in the past, but it means that I want to be able to do exactly like what happened the first time. When I was blessed and I got my first workout program from Tim Touchstone, Tom Touchstones of Butter. I went through 2 months of a massive body change. From being fat to fit, and then becoming actually really fit. Becoming athletic fit. Becoming mildly top heavy. Finally fitting in. And then realizing I now have the power to not just go along. To not just be like, oh well, now I'm the fit crew, so now let me be a bully. No, I was now able to say, no, let me back up the kids that are being picked on. It's not right. If you're being picked on because you're a dick, fine, get picked on. But if you're being picked on just because people want to pick on you, that shit ain't right. Whether it's skinny, whether it's because you happen to be, non-heterosexual, or you happen to freaking, be smart, or you happen to be dumb. You happen, and I hate to say that, I'm going to say that though. Just because you have some shortcoming doesn't mean you're not valid. And whatever makes you happy, you should be able to do within reason. And I want the greater part of society to realize that we can't do this alone. We've got to do this together. Doesn't matter which way we're going, from losing weight to gaining weight to finding a way to build ourselves up, and whether or not if it's even in the scope of weightlifting, if it's in the scope of mentally challenged. And when I say mentally challenged, we're all mentally challenged in a way. I don't give a shit what anybody says. There ain't one person who can come in here and tell me that, oh yeah, I just knew math my entire life. Yeah, until you were taught, you were mentally challenged. You didn't know a damn thing. So just because someone else learns slower, or someone else is struggling to grasp the concept, doesn't mean that you're now superior and they're inferior. Everyone has something beautiful to offer in this world. Allow them to shine in their own way. And I'm sorry for just getting off track here, but yeah, just think, here in like another 50 days, I'm hopeful to present to you guys the new me. And hopefully the new me is the old me. When I say the old me, I want the military version of me. I want the high school athlete version of me. I want the inner person that was me, with the exception of the naivety. I don't want to be naive, but at the same time, I also want to be that guy who's willing to help anyone. If I know something and I can help you, let me help you. I will do anything I can. Now, don't take advantage of that, but at the same time, understand that I am being sincere, because it's not just about me. I have friends and family who may not know how much it means to me. But it's very important that we come together. So, 50 days from now, let's shoot for that overweight BMI. Let's be specific to that. Let's shoot for that overweight BMI. It's going to be rough. I mean, you're talking a 29.9% BMI to reach that, and I'm currently at a 38.5. Now, that means I have to be able to drop 8.6%, or I'm sorry, 7.2% BMI. I'm actually at 37.2. I need to be able to drop 7.2% BMI. That's going to be rough. And I also need to try and get my body fat percentage to drop into them high to mid 20s. It's going to be difficult. I'm not certain I'm going to be able to do it, but that is the goal I'm now setting for myself, and it may be unrealistic, but how can I shoot for the stars if I'm not willing to shoot past the moon, or even opposite that? How am I to shoot to the moon if I'm not willing to shoot to the stars? I should be shooting for a goal that's greater, and if I achieve it, then that's even better. That just proves even more the impossibilities are possible. I thank y'all for being here. I hope that what I've shown you today is at least a little bit of positivity and a little bit of visual. Hey, this can work. This is possible. I know there are some of us out there that are heavy, and I'm not putting anything against you in any way, shape, or form. I know how difficult it is. It used to really suck because the first time I was fat, I lost the weight so quickly, so easily, going on that diet and putting on all that muscle, and I felt so good. But I was never at the obesity level I am now. I probably was more in the overweight, maybe close to obese at the time. Now, after being morbidly obese and experiencing this, I understand the struggles. There were so many times that I watched coaches or people sit there and say, you just need to work out. Yeah, true. But then I also watched very, very heavy guys massively throwing weights that were just ridiculous. And I watched them work out and just sweat like crazy. And nothing was changing. And now, after personally experiencing it, I understand. It's not just, it's not like being just slightly overweight and going and working out. You're not just dealing with, I'm going to lose some body fat, and, I'm going to keep these great energy levels, and great, my health issues are great. No, it's like your heart hurts, your lungs hurt, your body is like, and it's probably mental, but your body is calling out to say, I need to eat, because you're using too much of the resources you have. Even though you have plenty of resources on your body, you may be dealing with other complications like diabetes or joint problems because of the weight. Your muscles themselves can't take on more because they're already dealing with the amount on your body. I have a mass respect for those who were worse off than me and have found a way to get themselves in shape. I have a mass respect for all of you who've gone through that challenge, because now that I've had to face it myself, I totally have so much respect. It's like going through boot camp twice, but at a much, much more accelerated rate. I understand why people give up. I understand why people quit. I understand why people just say, I'm done. I give up. It's hard. But be Sisyphus. No matter how much that boulder weighs, keep pushing. Keep pushing. You can roll it uphill. It's not gonna fall down. You can do it. Thank you, everybody. This has been Weakness Peakness. Adrian here, and I wish y'all a wonderful night. Bye.